It is one thing, an important one, to design climate-sensitive fiscal policies. It is quite another to make sure that public financial management, the government institutional arrangements that are in place to implement these policies, can deliver. Climate issues raise new, big challenges. They will require specific policies that work. It is imperative. One should make sure that public financial management is fit for purpose. Economists, please take note. Luc Lerut, a former IMF economist, will tell us more.
My name is Luc Lerut. I'm an associate researcher at CERDI in University of Clermont-Auvergne, with 25 years or so at the IMF and a few years also at the Asian Development Bank. I have worked quite a lot in public financial management, and this is what I'm going to talk to you about. There will be two parts to my presentation. The first one will be what is exactly this public financial management PFM concept, tool, and why is it critical to address climate change. So I'll move to my first slide. So what is public financial management, PFM? There is one definition that the IMF provides. It's all the government's institutional arrangements that are in place to facilitate the implementation of fiscal policies. Actually, this has become an important part of the work of the IMF, but not only the IMF, also the other international organizations. And in fact, maybe 20 years ago, economists specialized in public economics had never heard about public financial management. So that's really something that they gradually become aware of, but are not yet totally fully aware of. So the first implication of this definition is that PFM is not about designing policies, it is about implementing them. The second implication is that economists who are usually more concerned with policies than with the tools to implement them, they see that as a little bit less important. So PFM is often overlooked by economists. And yet it is extremely important, is actually critical to address climate changes. Why is that? Because the need to do something about climate change is increasingly urgent. So actually in the PFM circles, one has introduced something called green PFM. And in fact, it's to adapt PFM practices to better support climate sensitive policies. So ideally, because public financial management covers so many things in the public domain, if you wish, green PFM should become the key enabler of an integrated government strategy to combat climate change. We are not there yet. Nevertheless, this whole concept of green PFM and its importance has gradually made economists more aware about public financial management. So what is this PFM? It's concerned with the laws, the organizations, the systems, the procedures that are available to governments to secure and use public resources effectively, efficiently, and transparently. So PFM is everything that makes fiscal policy work. That's a note to economists. Please note, you need us. You need PFM people. So typically, public financial management looks at how well the components of the annual budget cycle are performing. So that's the core of it, really. But not only that. But nevertheless, first, there is the fiscal framework that includes budget preparation, budget execution, accounting and reporting, and external security and audit. I will come back to some of these components in a minute. And in addition, one would expect a good public financial management system to also take into account things like transparency or the legal framework of the country, actually. So I can summarize that by having a nice graph like that. In the middle, you have a legal framework, and then you have the fiscal framework, budget preparation, budget executions. They are called the main pillars of the public financial management system. Actually, one would expect that all these pillars work well in order for the PFM system to work well as well. We'll also discover that this is not always the case. So what exactly do these things entail, these stages? The fiscal framework refers to the broad assumptions that are made in order to prepare the budget: the price of oil, growth, elasticities of revenues, changes in tax rate, reintroducing a VAT. All these things will be extremely important as key assumptions to prepare the budget. But after that, one really has to prepare the budget, and ideally, this should be done within the framework of a medium-term fiscal framework, let's say 5 years. For the next 5 years, this is what is going to happen with taxes. These are my plans for the future. You can always do things for 1 year. If you build a dam somewhere in some country, it's a lot of money, and it will take many years to implement. So at least let's look at things in the medium term. So the budget preparation should also include the assumptions that are made by the various sectors. For example, you may decide that education is becoming a priority. What are we going to do with education? At what level is it? What do we need to improve literacy rates, for example? Well, we need so many schools, so many teachers, but not only that, it's not only bricks and mortars and people, we need it to work. So there are a number of issues that need to be implemented, that need to be taken into account in the budget preparation. Now, this budget must also be approved by Parliament. That's why transparency is key, because after all, the Parliament is the representative of the people. The majority is the representatives of the majority of the people. So this budget must be approved by the Parliament and should be democratic, and people should know what there is in the budget. And that's why transparency is actually key. Budget execution is when line ministries, spending ministries, Ministry of Education, Ministry of whatever, Ministry of Mines, Ministry of Oil, actually implement the budget. They implement the expenditures. You know, they collect the revenue in the case of the Ministry of Finance. So this is implementing. One needs to be sure that the way the money is collected, the way the money is spent, is actually appropriate. Accounting and reporting, that's another of the pillars that I just showed you a minute ago. It's typically done through some form of integrated financial management information system that gives feedback on how well the expenditure is done and how well the revenues are coming back in. Now, the level, how much this system, these integrated automatic systems cover of the public activities depends very much from country to country. But still it's critical, because that's what allows the executive to know what is happening on the ground. We'll see that in many places, the information is certainly partial. Nobody cares about it sometimes. Certainly there is not necessarily corrective action that is being made on the basis of new numbers that will be supplied to the authority. Control and audit is another thing that is done at various stages, but in fine, it will be with the Court of Audit, and the Court of Audit in most cases will report to the Parliament and say, well, this is how the budget has been implementing, and it was a good thing, but there are these problems, this has happened, this was good, but this was not so good. There is a whole report that goes to Parliament. So what is it that a good public financial management system should achieve? Well, number one, it should respect financial accountability integrity. That means I should be able to know that the money is not wasted, is not diverted, is not going where it should not. So that's priority one. Priority two, that's what happens to the money and what we are achieving. The number one is that there should be no macroeconomic crisis. So the PFM system must be such that the country will not be in big economic disarray soon. And then also that there is an efficient delivery of public goods. So A and B are certainly needed to secure a sustainable economic development, but as we will see in the next part of the presentation, climate concerns would fall firstly in 2B, but also in 2A, because the magnitudes of the amounts that are involved to fight climate change are basically, or to deal with climate change, I should say, are immense. The other priorities of a good PFM system, there are a few, and one is transparency. I just mentioned it already. Now, are there instruments that exist to assess PFM system? Yes, there are. One is the PFA. It's the Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability Framework. That's the PFA Secretariat is based at the World Bank. Basically, it was developed quite a while ago when there was this highly indebted initiative that was taken to relieve the countries that had high debts from the burden of having to service it, basically. In order to do that, the donors were thinking that, well, at least they should have a budget where they show that the money that is not coming back to us in terms of servicing the debt is going where it should go. So there would be a need to have a system that actually allows the authorities first, but also the donors, to give them confidence that the money is well spent. Goes, for example, to education, things like that. So the PFA was developed, and it looks at institutions, practices, processes, everything. It has indicators, sub-indicators, pillars. I have talked about the various pillars of the budget cycle. And essentially, it tries to determine whether the country is in a position to have a strategic allocation of resources and efficiently deliver public services. So it started in the 1990s, and then it became the PFA. Today, the PFA is used by most donors that do budget support operations. That means they give cash to poor countries, and they want to be sure that the cash is going to be well spent, and for that you need a system that tells you how the money is spent. So that's basically what the PFA is about. That's an instrument that is used by many, because now it has been there for many years, and therefore there is quite a bit of data that is available. I have given here a couple of references that are useful, and I would like to thank you for paying attention. Thank you very much.